hot mics, my friends. 10 seconds from hot mics. The mics are going hot, Alex.
Good morning, everyone. We have an exciting show lined up.
Is that because I'm here?
Morning.
I'm back? Is that what it is?
Oh,
It's gotta be
Xavier
that,
is
right?
back after what? Has it
3
been?
weeks? 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks
since you have been on the show. So
I almost
Xavier,
don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Right?
Yeah,
I
you
forgot.
almost forgot what his role was. He came in this morning and says, "Do I have to ask questions?"
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I'm just kidding. So Xavier is back on the show this morning. We have a fantastic lineup of entrepreneurs that are going to be joining us this morning. Very shortly in the show, we're going to be joined by Shannon Horton and Caitlin Horton. They are both the general manager and winemaker at Horton Vineyards, and then later in the show, we're going to be joined by Jennifer Blanchet from Flower Girl CVille. So
this is going to be good.
We got
This
some
is going to be a good
fantastic,
show. Two
great
things I love.
lineup. These are you can tell that they like what they do. So this is going to be. And
great. I like what they do too, which is very
There we
important.
go. I mean, wine and flowers. I mean,
Absolutely.
There's not much not to like. So we are very excited for that. We're going to be. I mean, it's a nice morning to just relax.
It is
It's going to be a beautiful day. I can tell. Just relax, get your café con leche, settle down in your cozy spot, and listen or watch.
I'm surprised the allergies haven't kicked in on you yet. I mean, it's been such an early.
It's allergy medicine that is holding them at bay. Yeah, this is me post Flonase. So pre-Flonase out.
Because it feels like it's been a very early spring.
Oh, I'm a little worried about this allergy season.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Maybe it'll end quicker.
Yeah, maybe I'll get my body will get used to it.
Yeah,
it won't be so rough.
All right, quiet on the set.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you joining us this morning on the Today y Mañana show on the I Love CVille Network. And Xavier, glad to have you back.
I'm delighted to be back. I am delighted to be back. It's been a long time. It feels like ages.
Well, it's been three shows you weren't able to make. So basically, it's been a month since the audience has seen you.
Yeah.
So I know Xavier.
Well, the other guys are doing such a great job that everybody's like, does he really have to come back?
Does he have to come back?
Does he have to?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a couple people that say, "Oh, Xavier, he's back."
The senior citizens. You're going to say that soon, right?
I can identify with this show again. Xavier is back. So we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're very excited about it. We're going to be joined very shortly in the show by Shannon Horton, the general manager, and Caitlin Horton, a third-generation winemaker at Horton Vineyards, followed by, later in the show, Jennifer Blanchet from Flower Girl CVille. So we've got a great show lined up. As always, we love being here on the I Love CVille Network set. Of course, we're always presented by Emergent Financial Services. We're powered by our friends at Castle Hill Cider. Their Royal Tea is coming up.
Oh, it's coming up. That's
at
right.
Castle Cider. So I think it's going to be every Sunday in March. So starting this Sunday, the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th, the Royal Tea. So they fancied up the whole. And then you get your tea sets. I mean, it comes with cider too. So if you like Castle Hill cider,
nothing like
you get your cider. I'm sure Josephine has found ways to just meld cider with tea. I'm sure
put a little cider on the tea.
Yeah, I'm sure she's come up with something creative. That's usually her go-to of creativity. So I'm sure Josephine has come up with something, and of course they'll have like the fancy sandwiches and the scones and so forth, so you can get all dressed up and go to experience royalty at Castle Cider all the Sundays in March. As well as Thursdays, they've got some live music on Thursday evenings. So you can start your weekend early at Castle Hill Cider.
Good.
So that's I know that's always a fun thing, especially.
Well, there's all those companies that go on 4-day week. I don't know if you read the study.
True. So Thursday night.
So maybe Thursday night is the new Friday night.
Yeah, it's the new Friday night. So be sure to join them at Castle Hill Cider. Of course, there's always partnering with Craddock Serious Insurance, our friends Miguel and Chit and Carolina. Now, and also with Matthias Yon Realty. Matthias, I'm sure he's going to be on the show. Welcome, Matthias. We're definitely check him out. He'll be on, I'm sure, to talk about, we've had him on, so he'll be back, I should say, on the show soon to talk with us. And of course, we're always partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I'm glad to have you here. Be
I'm
sure
glad
to
to
like
be back.
and share. I stole that from you. I should have had you
You
say
didn't give
that.
me a chance.
Well,
It's like, you just take over. I mean, that's my line. You're supposed to go.
What's the other thing they should do in addition to liking and share?
Like, share, and subscribe.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a new one. That's a.
There you go. To today, Mañana. Send us any comments, questions you may have. We're always ready to read all the great comments that you have about our guests. And I don't know about you, but then I'm ready to jump right in.
Anytime we can talk about wine, it's time to jump in. Let's be
There you
honest.
go. Exactly. So we are very excited to welcome to the show this morning Shannon Horton, who is the general manager, and Caitlin Horton, a third-generation winemaker at Horton Vineyards. Shannon, Caitlin, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, it's
Good
great to
morning.
be here.
We're very glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about, Shannon, maybe you could start a little bit about the history of Horton Vineyards, and then Caitlin, you can talk about what drew you to continue the family legacy. So Shannon, maybe you can jump in first here.
So Horton Vineyards was started by my mom and my dad in 1989. We were incorporated then. We didn't do our first planting into our vineyard until spring of 1990.
Okay.
My father never liked to do everything mainstream. He always wanted to do something different. So he was very much a maverick in the Virginia wine industry itself, bringing a lot of different varietals to the state of Virginia that have now become staples within most of the wineries in the state. So when we first started, our license was 43 for the 43rd winery in the state, and now there's over 350.
Wow.
So lots of
know that.
wineries out there.
Yeah.
So with the biggest thing that Dad was known for was putting in the Viognier. And that really launched his 1993 winning international and California awards, really put Virginia winemaking on the map. So that was really kind of cool. And then I grew up with it. This is what we did. This is, people ask, oh, did you go on vacations? No. We worked. Dad always tooled around with a vineyard in his yard, and then decided to launch a commercial vineyard.
Okay.
And he built the building out on 33. He wanted to make something very different. The refab building was kind of the in thing at the time in the early 90s. And then he actually built the chateau-like inspired castle that's out there on 33. So
That's amazing. And Caitlin, how about yourself? What made you decide to
Continue on this road.
If there was a choice.
Well, I do have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, so there was options. No, I graduated in May of 2020, and I was working in the tasting room full time at that point because I was getting my degree and working the family business. And my original plan was to get that degree and then leave. And then our winemaker left in May of 2021. And I was like, oh, well, I've worked downstairs before. I've interned for a summer. I know how, the basics it works. So I'll go downstairs until our interim winemaker, gets his feet settled, and we'll be all good to go. That didn't last long. He was gone before August. And I was like, oh, cool. All right. I've never run a harvest, never been an intern at a harvest, don't know how it works. But I'll figure it out. So I read as many books as I could get my hands on, read as many articles, talked to a lot of winemakers in our area, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, it's okay. I'm like, okay, great. And then my grandmother brought in a little under 400 tons and 18 varietals, and we had 25 grape contracts to fulfill.
Wow.
So I had to do that and try to figure out how to make wine.
So you just jumped right in.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, with the 18 varietals, do you create 18 different wines, or do you have to mix
63.
them? 63.
Well, we have 63 labeled, but with the 18 varietals, they're actually subset. We don't mix lots. So a lot is the amount of grapes my grandmother can pick in a particular day.
Okay.
We won't mix lots until the end of harvest or until we bottle. So, I have Petit Manseng at Ellie, which is in Madison County, and I have Petit Manseng at our main vineyard, which is in Orange County. We keep those completely separate until we bottle.
Okay.
Because they come in about 30 days apart, and they taste totally different. So we don't want to mix and match them until we know for sure that's what we want. You can't undo something. You can always add a little bit more, add a little bit less.
So harvest is a little Tetris. So
Yes.
we have 25 tanks downstairs that can hold thousands of gallons of wine. And you're still like, even if it's the same vineyard, in our main vineyard, we will still keep the Viognier separated, what was harvested one day and what's harvested the next day,
okay.
and to see how they turn out and see whether we're going to put them together or segregate something off into our barrel select, or we're going to do something else with this one, or sometimes clients will buy our juice. So sometimes we'll be harvesting, crushing, and getting the juice, and then orchestrating a pickup. There's a lot of logistics to bring in almost 400 tons of fruit off of 67 acres, and we sell somewhere around 125 to 200 tons of that. And we still make, like right now in the cellar, there's 95,000 gallons of wine.
Wow.
So
this is literally wine. So you've already made the wine, and it just hasn't been bottled yet.
Correct. Right.
Because you're waiting to see how it turns out?
Well, we're doing, there's blending trials, there's aging, there's what do we need next that's coming up. Like one vintage is about to end. Is it time to bottle the next one? Sometimes if my mom needs to replant a certain area in the vineyard, I will try and think about the logistics, how many gallons we have downstairs, and can I bottle for the next 4 years so those plants are mature enough to be able to harvest, and then we never have a gap for our customer. Like, because we always want them to come back, and we don't want to be waiting around for one varietal. So sometimes if we see that coming down the pike, then we will over bottle so that we can keep it on hand and that there isn't a gap in the supply chain.
So what would you say is your most popular wine, the one that is sold every single year the most?
So the three wines that we had that are most widely distributed are the Viognier, the Cabernet Franc, and the Norton.
Yep.
Okay.
So those three, it's about 1,500 to 2,000 cases of each of those wines make it out into the mainstream and be available at our winery.
Okay, I got you.
So what is it about this? I know the Viognier is one that your website mentioned. That's kind of like the first one. What is it about Viognier and Virginia that it became this wine that works so well? What did your dad kind of see in that grape?
So he liked something a little bit more complex for his white wines. He didn't want something so simple, and he liked the complexity of it, that it went with really rich foods, that you can barrel age it, and you can actually even ferment on the skin sometimes and get a lot more complexity, and it's got this huge mid palate. My daughter hates it when I make that decision.
Absolutely.
Because it has to happen on the crush pad at the moment, and you don't know it's going to happen. We refrigerate all of our white grapes for at least 24 hours to keep the phenols down, the phenolic acid. And California doesn't have to because they harvest at dawn and it's,
still the same temperature,
50 degrees. We have refrigerated trucks that we put it in to get to that.
'Cause it's warm already.
It can be 80 degrees when you're harvested and you don't.
It doesn't cool down at night.
Right, it doesn't cool down enough at night for us. So then I will eat the grape and right out of the reefer and decide with the skin, like if it doesn't impart a lot of bitterness, then I'm like, guess what? We're making,
So you make that decision.
Yes.
Do
Nothing.
you eat just one grape or like a whole bunch of them? And
Just
see
a couple of them off
couple,
different clusters throughout the,
Okay,
the one section or whatever. We've looked at the chemistries before, but it's really that taste.
Yeah.
She'll always give me chemistries. I'm like, well, what's it taste like? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, go out and find out. Like, but, and then we work with my mom and she'll tell me. My mom still works the field.
Yes.
Wow.
She still is in charge of the crew. So it is a fully functional 3 generations. Like she's out there every single day. She tells us what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
She's in charge.
Uh-huh.
Like if anybody had any doubt, my mother is in charge.
100%.
She gets the final say. But she'll say this one's ripening a lot better. Like this is going to be really good. I think you're going to be able to make barrel select. And then after we make that decision, then we've got to contract and get dry ice. And because while we crush and destem it and leave it on the skins, we put dry ice on it at the same times. To keep the phenols down, you want it extremely cold. And then we put it in the reefer, and then we do punch downs every 30 minutes to an hour on it. We taste the wine as it's doing that process for up to 12 hours. And then at 12 hours, we press. So usually the process starts at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then at 12 o'clock at night, you're pressing. Wow. So your day, and then you still got to clean the press.
long.
They're long days.
Well,
and you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
until we make that decision on the crush pad.
No, because we did that in 2021, and I banned you from making that decision.
I know.
I was like,
but
you're
it
not
was
allowed
really
to make.
Good.
And I was like, if you're gonna make this decision, I need at least like 12 hours notice so I can start this, because I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to start this decision at 11, and then we were getting out of there at 4 a.m. when we have to start back up at 6 a.m. Like, I didn't want to do that to my staff or to myself. I like sleep.
Not during harvest.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a person during harvest. It's fine. And so I just didn't want to do that. And so I was like, all right, Mom, if you're going to decide this, you need to decide this at 6 a.m. Like, I need you here early in the morning. My mom's not a huge morning person, or at least, at the crush pad in the morning. And I was like, if you're going to make a decision, it needs to be like 7 a.m. at the latest. And that way we could be home by like 11 midnight. Like, that's reasonable. And she's like, yeah, cool, of course. And then she's like tasting this grape. She goes, no, you're going to hate me. I was like, it's 11. Do you understand what this day is going to look like now?
Well, yeah, because we had some other things come in, and then we had some reds come in, and we were like, we had to crush and destem that. And, of course, then you really got to clean out your crusher destemmer, because you've got all these red skins in there, and you just process reds.
Yeah.
So Mom brought in some fruit really early in the morning, and so they were doing that. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I need to taste the Viognier in the cooler.
Worst decision ever.
So then at 3 a.m., I'm like, hey, you want some snack?
Yeah, my alarm to get up went off.
We did send the staff home.
Okay,
we sent the staff home, and the two of us stayed with one other person and stayed. We sent the main staff home, and then we called them back in 12 hours. So just come back at 1.
Because basically you have to put the grapes into the crusher, right?
Well, we'll put it into
what
the
is
press.
it that you guys are doing?
Yeah, we put it in
You got a lot of machines going on.
Yeah, there's and luckily once you crush and destem, then you can use a forklift to put it in there. But then it's also the cleaning process. I mean, what people sometimes don't understand is winemaking is 90% janitorial.
Yeah,
it
it's
is
a good
about
80%
how
janitorial.
clean you keep your cellar, how often are you power washing, how often are you scrubbing, keeping all of your surfaces clean so that you don't end up with contaminated wine, especially if you're going to age it for long periods of time. And so a winemaker is a janitor.
Yeah.
Like, your main job is to clean.
Yes.
Keep everything clean.
It had never occurred to me that's one of the main tasks.
Yeah, it never occurred to me that. So my wife's Italian, right?
Okay.
And her uncles always made wine. And so when I got married, they said, you want to make wine? I love wine. So I said, sure. So they came over to my house. We bought the grapes, made the wine. We crushed the grapes ourselves. Now, to be honest with you, her uncle's like one of these. It's like, don't worry about it. It ferments in the barrel.
Alcohol kill everything.
Absolutely. So it was just like putting everything in there after it's crushed and everything. So, and I'm saying, I don't know. This process seems a little like
Doesn't seem very sanitary.
It doesn't seem sanitary, but hey, he says it ferments. And I'll be honest with you, we drank the wine. I'm still alive, so we're good to go. But but that's a little different.
A couple shout outs. We got some people watching. Bill McChesney watching the show this morning. Rosalia Cordaro. I think maybe in Miami watching the show this morning. Maybe back
she's in New York.
In New York, from New York. So we got
actually,
someone from New York.
so her husband and I are the ones that made the wine. That their uncle helped us make the wine, and we have good stories about that.
There you have
it's
it.
Too short a show for that.
Great
Well,
stories.
be careful, because that's how my dad started.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
He started
I'm
in
not.
the
Yeah,
basement, and then he had to build another building on his main property to get a bigger basement, and then now he has started a commercial winery.
If her uncle lived here right now, we'd be definitely having vineyards all over my backyard. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, because I know we always. Sometimes it's tempting that I always ask people, I was thinking about this last night, I always ask people, the challenges of doing winemaking in Virginia. Right? But what would you say are some of the, I'm going to switch it up a little, what are some of the joys, what are some of the interesting things that can happen about making wines in Virginia that's because of our climate, because of our soil, that sort of the positives that come out for the wine?
So for me, it's because you got to work for it. I didn't have to just get up. Everything's great. Everything's groovy. There's like the most fun for me. My daughter didn't like it, but when I'm on the crush pad and like something's not coming out quite the way that I want it to taste, or it doesn't have the richness that I want, or it doesn't have this, then I start I'm like, oh, you need to Saunier that. We're going to blend this. Well, how much? I don't know. We're just going to keep tasting it until I like it. I'm like, you need to take this and put that in there. Like, it's midnight, Mom. No, I don't care. We're going to do this, and this is going to be really cool. And then you're going to taste it, and it's going to be great. That's like the most fun for me, especially because we have so many different varietals of grapes. With the 18 different varietals, we have all this in our arsenal that we don't have to do powders or additives or things. We can, if a grape comes in and we had to harvest it early and the skins weren't as dark as we wanted them, then we can take the skins from the Norton or the Tannat and we can co-ferment them with the next batch that's coming in. Those kinds of things in our arsenal and at our ready is kind of like having a full spice cabinet. Like a baker, when you have, you've got your stock of what you normally have.
Right.
Like, if I need more acid, then I'll just take some early pick. Or if I need tannins, I just add a little bit of Tannat. That's why
you're using your own wines,
Yes.
your own grapes to change the flavor instead of having to, get other ingredients from outside.
Right. We do that a lot. If we think something's missing in a blend, or, we'll still be able to keep it at the 85% that we need to bottle it and call it Cabernet Franc, but I can add a little bit of Tannat, or I can help it out in the co-fermentation part. That, for me, is like the fun part.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you get to keep tasting wines over and over until it's, your palate says, this is good. I mean, that's a good job to have, really.
Yes. So
That part.
I don't know what it's like to make wine out in California. I only know what it's like to make wine in Virginia.
It has to be a lot tougher in Virginia.
The humidity and the amount
Exactly.
of rain,
Yeah,
when I go out there for pourings and tastings, and I sit on a wine board out in California, and when they're like, "Oh, how are things going?" I don't know. I got 6 inches of rain. Oh, the whole season? No, last week. It's completely different. Yeah. They're getting a little bit of it right now because we're seeing all these posts of all the snow.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, it looks like Virginia. That's what our vineyard really looks like in March. So they're getting a different taste of it, I think, right now. Yeah. We'll see how their harvest goes. They probably didn't have bud break, so it'll be all right.
So speaking of that, I mean, how does a year like this year, where spring, we were talking a little about it before, spring comes so early, is that troublesome to you? Or
we're very concerned.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, we're concerned that all of a sudden it's going to be 20 degrees and the buds are out.
Right.
Yeah. That's the part.
I mean, we already got sap running 6 weeks early, so that's...
Yeah, and it may mean that harvest is early. We may get a frost. We don't know. It's all up to I don't know.
Yeah.
My grandmother always said that farming is legalized gambling.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to get.
That's true.
The weather is just so unpredictable.
It is.
Yeah, and people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, pray. That's all I got. Light candles and pray.
There's a couple frost preventions you can do, but at a certain point it can get so cold that little to no help.
It can only
67 acres is tough to.
It is.
Well, and there's a lot of people who actually have the fans and machines to help with that, but that can only raise it I think a maximum of 4 to 5 degrees.
And if you're 20, then what are you doing?
It's not going to
25.
The fire machines and the fire pits can be dangerous in vineyards. So, you do what you can.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons, I love making Barrel Select and making that decision on the crush pad, because I feel like that's also giving homage and respect to what our crew has done. They have brought us this beautiful crop, and they have maintained and taken care of those vines.
Right.
And making something really special and really great in a small batch celebrates that.
So is the Barrel Select label, is that something it's only from a particular batch? It hasn't been mixed with other wines?
So what happens with Barrel Select, so according to the federal government, when you put Barrel Select on a label, anybody can put it on there. It doesn't mean anything, unlike the term estate grown. Okay? So Barrel Select doesn't mean anything, doesn't have to. What it means for us is every single barrel before we reblend and turn it into that varietal, or sometimes the Viognier. The Viognier we make a special way.
One, yes.
But for my Mourvedre and my Syrah and my Tannat, these were barrels that were above board. They're
the best of the best.
They were the best of the best. They exceeded our expectations. They were just so memorable that I quarantine them off.
So you don't use them for other. you
Right.
don't mix them
These
up.
are what the varietal can do in Virginia. Is the best of the best. And what's really cool about the label is on the side of it. It tells you how many barrels went into that particular bottle. So we have a barrel select to not that only was one barrel. And so we only made like 22 cases of that.
Yeah, and I didn't even filter it because sometimes
No.
filtering can alter the taste
Yes.
a little bit, and so I was like, no. And so on our Instagram, there's actually a picture
Yes.
of the stave going into the barrel and straight into the bottling
Which
line.
is super unheard of. Like, you don't do
you
that.
don't do that.
That's not the most sanitary. It's not the most, like...
But the chemistries were perfect,
Yes.
and the labs were great.
Yes.
But you normally don't do that.
No, it is not usually how you normally do a bottling.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
That's
Taylor, tell us a
amazing.
little
That's
bit, when you
just-
talk about, I'm interested, when you talk about the chemistries and so forth, is that just you also, I mean, I'm not a science major by any
It's
means.
okay.
Are you kind of scientifically looking at the
Yeah,
wine?
so
Like
it's-
this has this percent acidity or something like that?
Yeah, so the major things that we do, depending if it's harvest or not, is I'll do a Brix, which is BRIX, which is how you measure residual sugar in a wine. It's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. So if it's like 9.8 Brix, that means it's going to be 9.8% residual sugar. So it's going to taste very sweet.
Okay.
That's usually like where your dessert wines kind of live. And then we taste, or not taste, but we do pH, which is your basic acid and basic kind of measurement. Then you have a TA, which is
Total acidity.
well, it's layman's total acidity. It's
Yeah.
a trabidial acidity, which is how much you can titrate, but which is basically the amount of acid that has the potential to be in that particular
Okay.
wine. And then you have a VA, which is volatile acidity, which there's a legal limit set, so it means like how much you can have. Usually, like 1 is way too much. You want to stay on like the lower end of the VA, and then sulfur. We use sulfur. There's some wineries that don't, but we do as an additive. So we have a free SO2, and then we have total SO2. And usually how much SO2 you add is how much pH, and that keeps the wine good for, and so like red wines, you put in more than you do white wines because you're going to age
Age
it.
them a little more.
Yeah,
Right.
Depending on your total acidity
Right.
and your pH,
Yes.
there's a graphic
graph.
curve of how much sulfur should
Yep.
be present for it to last to 5 to 10 years.
Gotcha.
People
Gotcha.
always ask, like, how long is this wine going to last? I'm like, well, it depends on how it was built.
Yes.
Depends
And like
on the way it was built.
Yeah, sweeter wines are like, we make some fruit wines. They're made to be drank within like 18 months.
Yeah.
Max. They're not built for long aging.
Gotcha.
They're built to be
Gotcha.
consumed today. Versus like the barrel select to not, that was built to be aged for, like, you could age that for another decade and it will still be phenomenal.
Oh, interesting. Yes,
Didn't realize that.
there's so
Yeah.
much that
Yeah.
goes
So there's so much that goes into
There's
that
to
wine
decide
making.
and even so you'll kind of you'll make that determination based on the wine. Like if this wine would benefit from aging, you actually have to sort of
And
construct
change
it
it.
differently from the bottom up in a sense.
Yeah, and that decision is almost made at harvest because you can add acid to raise the pH. And if I raise the pH, then I can lower the SO2, but it's still safe. And it can still hold on to those floral aromas or the rich stone fruit or the
Yeah,
berries.
you don't want too much SO2 at
Nope.
harvest. You don't want to add because
Nope.
then you're going to prevent fermentation.
Yes.
And so there's all of this stuff that you have to think about.
Yep.
Wow.
But you want some SO2 so it's protected while it's fermenting. SO2 is your number one natural preservative. And that is my number one friend downstairs because it keeps things protected. Because in fermentation world, you're going to introduce it to oxygen. Well, wine hates oxygen. So as it becomes more wine, it doesn't want oxygen, but it needs to release the CO2 somewhere. So it's a weird balance.
And we use dry ice or
Yes.
nitrogen on the grapes when we're pressing and when we're crushing and we're distemming to keep the oxygen away from the wine to create a layer of gas so if you do punch downs where you're pushing the red skins to make the color into the wines, you will then put dry ice over it.
Yep.
Interesting.
Unbelievable. All that goes on. Wow.
yes, so
So obviously
much that
during
goes
harvest and winemaking, those are a lot of decisions that are being made almost on the fly there.
It's very much, and you have to fully trust not only your staff, but your own self and your own palate.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's decisions I have to make, and it's like a 2-second decision. I can't stop and call my grandmother or my mother and be like, so what do you think? It's like, okay, we're doing this. This is what we're doing. Or if, like, something happens where it's like, okay, now what? Like, it's very much you can train as much as you need to, but it is a very on-job, have to think right now. Like, if someone drops a barrel while we're moving it, okay, what do we do now? How do we fix this? How do we save as much wine as possible? How much oxygen's in there? Does it touch the floor for too long? Is this now contaminated?
Gotcha.
What do we do now? Like, it has to happen right in succession.
That's
Unbelievable.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So now there's a number of ways people can enjoy the wine because there's like a wine club as well as, of course, the tasting room. Can you tell us a little bit about those? I mean, the tasting room is that the one that looks like the chateau?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a castle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
100% a castle.
Yes, and we haven't put new pictures up, but during the pandemic, we did put a pavilion with a nice solid roof outside of the tasting room so that now you have more of an ambiance outdoors besides just picnic tables in the vineyard. And it's got a gravel place that you can still access with strollers, wheelchairs, that kind of thing.
Wonderful.
And that's really been a great thing for us to have, just for people to have parties or picnics. People can come to the tasting room. Since we have such a wide selection, we usually try and work with the customers and talk to them about their palate and what they like and what they want to explore. And they can choose 6 1-ounce pours. We still do disposable cups on a paper plate that's labeled, but we give you a glass to pour the tasting into, and a sheet that you can go back to your table. But when you go to check out and make the order, we'll talk to you a little bit, because if you come up and say, I don't know what I like, okay, what do you drink? And they're like, well, wine from the grocery store. I don't care, just tell me what it is. Like, because that will help us guide what you may or may not like.
Right.
Whether you want something oaked or non-oaked. Do you want whites, reds? Do you want a lighter red? That kind of thing. And then we have flights, which are 3 2-ounce pours. Again, you get to choose out of most of the wines. The ones that sometimes are not open very often are the barrel selects.
Of course, there's so
We'll
much
talk
to
to you about them. Sometimes they're open because something else happened, and one of them happened to be open that day, and we'll substitute it in. But usually those are buy as you go, kind of thing. And then, so what was your other?
The wine club?
The wine club.
Wine club.
Oh, wine club. We love wine club. Okay. So we started the wine club. My dad never really established a wine
Nope.
club. That was like a new concept when Dad started, and he wasn't into like new things. So we did
Even though he was a maverick.
Yeah, even though he's a maverick. He was very much a maverick when it came to grapes and that kind of thing. This
Yeah, but
whole,
like the whole people thing?
So we started our wine club actually during the pandemic.
Yeah, we
We finally were able to get the right software to be able to keep everybody's credit card protected and that kind of thing. We were always looking out for the customer. So there's a monthly wine club where we choose 3 wines and we say, hey, this is what we want to send you. And you go, I don't want any of that. And then you can completely customize off our list. So it's a wine club built for you by you. Like
Right.
Yes.
you choose what you want. But there's also Fill the Cellar Club for our really dedicated customers. And they get 6 cases a year. They get 2 cases 3 times a year.
Well, and they do get a bigger discount.
And they get a larger discount, and they get that discount when they come in the tasting room. They get that if they want to send Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Anytime that they
Yeah.
make a purchase, they're going to get that discount, which is normally not available online.
Correct.
We don't do discounts online. So the wine club people, whether you're by the month or 3 times a year. And then we don't do the pickup parties. That's a really big thing a lot of times is to do pickup parties because we were born out of the pandemic with this. So we decided to send everybody toys because we felt like everybody needs to have that child in them nurtured.
It's great.
So like you get like Play-Doh and Hot Wheels or
Yo-yo.
you get puzzles.
Yeah.
In the winter we send puzzles. What did we just send last month? Oh, we sent like Valentine's Day.
Valentine's
stamps
Day, yep.
and
Oh,
stuff.
it was something fun.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's always, and some people say that their children are really mad when they postpone the wine club. They're like, but that was my toy box. Like,
And I have asked Mom, and you can't just join for the toys. Like, I didn't want the wine. I just wanted the toys. And Mom said no.
no.
You gotta have the wine too.
Yeah, you gotta get.
No, I just want the toys. I want the toys.
There you go.
No, you just get to make the wine.
No, oh, good. Oh, yay. Just banish me to the downstairs.
Wonderful. Oh, we got a couple more shout-outs. John Blair, Travis Hackworth, thanks for watching this morning. Russell Spencer says, love Hortons.
Thank
So you got a fan watching,
Thank you so much.
fan liking the show. And so, I mean, this has been a fantastic. Before I let you both go, where can people find you
Sure.
and get in touch?
So they can, our website at hortonwine.com.
Yeah.
They can come to our tasting room out in Gordonsville, 6399 Spotswood Trail, which is otherwise known as Route 33.
33.
We're about 20 miles north of Charlottesville, so come on out and see us there.
Close.
You can also find us on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram. And my daughter started the TikTok account. Okay,
Because
we are
Somewhere
There
growing.
we go. You're on all the platforms.
That's right.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Shannon, Caitlin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a lot of
Thanks.
fun.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Yeah.
so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us.
Informative
I
and
feel I've
fun.
learned
Oh,
so much.
good.
Appreciate it. All right, as we rotate
And good
here.
luck this year.
Yes,
Thank
good
you.
luck. We'll be praying for no frost, to be sure. I learned so much.
Oh, me too.
I always
Well,
learn
yeah,
so
always
much.
learn something. Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And there's
So-
always some jobs that look glamorous, and then when you find out all the work that entails, like, whoa,
It's a
wait a
lot
minute,
of work.
there's a lot of work.
I think it's the case with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? We looked at the final product and you're like, oh man, that must be fun to make that. And it's not that it's not fun, but it's also a lot of work. There's
yeah.
a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see from the final picture.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from one set of amazing entrepreneurs to another, we are very excited to welcome to the show Jennifer Blanchet. She is the owner of Flower Girl CVille. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No, we're glad to have you on. Glad to have you. So, I mean, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to start Flower Girl CVille.
Of course, yes. So, I've moved to the area about 7 years ago. My father and mom had retired to Stanton from New Jersey. I've always loved playing with flowers, and I guess it kind of started when I got married. I was living in San Francisco and had a friend who had access to the flower market and said, hey,
A lot of
I'll
flowers out
do
there.
your flowers for you. So I got to walk through and pick things, and I think I really just designed my first event then. And then over the years, just started making bouquets for people or just greening up the house or what have you, and did my sister's bouquet, did things for my mom. And I guess it really happened during pandemic when I started to think, what do I really want to do? And this feels more like than a hobby. So the last year or so, I was freelancing with a florist, Steel Cut, and they have Virginia and Maryland, but we did a lot of events here in the area, and I just really fell in love with it and decided to try it out on my own.
That's
yeah.
awesome. So,
Yeah.
what are the types of? Are you gonna? What are the types of flowers and decor that you're going to work with? What can people purchase from Flower Girl?
So what I'm working towards is a floral design, but as a socially conscious florist. So I recently enrolled in the CIC Entrepreneur Workshop.
Yep,
to
huge
kinda help me
fans of
get my
CIC
business
here.
going. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about, the local impact. So as a lot of the growers have kind of come together and built a collective, their goal is to supply us as designers with flowers from Virginia.
Okay.
And I really would like to, as much as possible, purchase locally. Not only that, but compost what I don't use. So if I design for an event like a wedding, by the way, I was happy to hear that they were number 40. Horton was
Yep,
number
43.
43,
and
yeah.
now there's 350 wineries. So there's room for me in this business.
There you go.
Flowers.
Exactly.
For
Exactly. Especially since so many weddings are at wineries.
Yeah, exactly. So I think about that. Purchasing local to support our farmers, and then composting. I see a lot of tendency is just throw things away. More importantly, though, would be to repurpose at University of Virginia, the hospital, or other areas. I think I'd want to see as a designer in this business that it's a full circle for my community.
Right.
A lot more than just, hey, I can create a beautiful event and that's that. I want to take the flowers intentionally day after and bring them where they can go, because they do have a shelf life.
Yep.
Still.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah.
And then also with that is to workshop with teenagers and hire high school girls to help in the summer. We definitely have a crisis of mental health with our girls, and I think I can give back with what I do to encourage girls to create and give them a platform to do something, and also at the same time bring in area experts to kind of address the mental health issues.
Now, I'm curious. So since you're using local, flowers, I guess as much as you can, right, to create, whatever floral arrangement you want. I suspect there's a growing season here in Virginia for flowers. So are you
Yes.
challenged sometimes as to whether a wedding's in May or September and October? Is that change how the bouquet is
Yes.
going to look?
Yeah, and in an ideal world, I would have a bride agree to dried flowers if they wanted to have a winter wedding. But that's
Right.
not always the case, although I did get flowers a couple weeks ago already. Just one variety, but they were already in bloom. So
Wow.
certainly for the weddings that would happen or events that would happen in the winter, it would require ordering, but I would look to do so as much sustainably as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, this is all new to me, and I just decided I want to go into this business, and now I'm like, okay, how do I keep it local, compost, try to use sustainable methods instead of floral foam and things like that. So I have a lot to learn, but I have a sense of working within my community and really want to touch it and make it full circle. So
Yep, that sense of mission and purpose.
yes.
That you have that drive it. Elizabeth Urpí watching the show this morning says patients and the staff at the hospital love the day after flowers at the hospital.
yay.
So
Awesome.
they definitely appreciate those.
Yeah,
I would think
that's-
so, right? I
Oh,
mean,
for sure, and that's a great hiring opportunity for me is to have freelance help where I can hire. I don't know. I've already been thinking about like people who have been incarcerated and are getting out to come and break down an event and see, wow, this is so beautiful, and I can have an income doing. So yeah.
Yeah, working with beauty, and there's been a lot of talk that I've seen recently about just the notion of how beauty can impact your life and not to just give you a sense of purpose, bring you positive feelings, and flowers are of course a
Yes.
beautiful way to do that. They're kind of a
always,
natural
yeah,
beauty.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. As I was freelancing this past year, and I'd show up, and the florist Allie set everything up, and I'd say, "Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful." She's like, "You say that every wedding." I'm like, "Because it is. It's just like it's something I really love, and to create it, to have started freelancing and realized like the very first wedding I did, I just knew I wanted to do it. I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to pursue." So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, there's something about flowers that just bring, right? I mean, there's like that freshness, that color, right? And when you just see flowers, whether it be in the center of a table, right? Or I mean, I remember when I used to work in New York, when you enter the floor where we used to work, there was this huge table, and every day there was this huge bouquet of flowers. So when you walked in, I mean, obviously it must have been pretty expensive, but every day was a different one. But you walked in and just kind of looked at it, it made you feel good,
Yeah.
right? Just you're going to work and you see that's the first thing you saw, right?
Yes.
And it does. I mean, it just gives you a different perspective to life and how you feel that day.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, during pandemic, I homeschooled my children, and I live in an HOA, and I had a little classroom, and there were things blooming all around. I was like, I got to get the kids out, and then I just started cutting stuff. I mean, branches, weeds, whatever. Just we created and we put it out there just to bring that sense of joy and life back
Exactly. Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
So that really helped shift for me perspective, and also to see them happy with being out in nature. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. What are some floral arrangements? I know being someone in floral decor, what are some types of decor that people often don't think about? Because I know your basics that people I know, everyone always mentions, there's the bouquets
Yeah.
for brides and bridesmaids and so forth. What are some kind of interesting ones that you've done that maybe people should think about that they don't often think that you can use flowers for this?
Sure. Well, I'm actually going to learn how to do like wearable types of flowers. So
Interesting.
I mean, there's an online plethora of courses you can take. So
Wow.
I've seen some beautiful things with like a scarf, things around the wrist, a headdress. But those are not skills I quite have yet. But I do think I'd like to bring, dried elements together with fresh elements, which I also don't see very often.
Yeah, that's not on but
Yeah.
that makes sense. They can be very beautiful.
They can, the big grasses coming out. But, when I got married, it was just I had a few centerpieces. I had a bouquet. We decorated the aisles. It really wasn't, this was a long time ago before, the Instagram and all the photos. So now you see a lot of really beautiful installations which go up the mantle, and there's greenery everywhere, or you see these beautiful arches or ground arches. And brides, I think, now are really seeing possibilities of using them in everywhere to their budget,
Yep,
as much
exactly.
as they can. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to like get into some different things. And
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Casey Turner liking the show this morning.
Hi,
Thanks for
Casey.
watching, Casey.
awesome.
So I'm curious, because we're big fans of community investment collaboratives.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of led you to say, okay, I'm going to take the 16-week workshop?
So it was kind of on my radar. A friend of mine had taken it. She's launching a coaching business, and she knew what I was into. And she said, you're already starting. I think this would be a really great fit for you to really, focus. Because I tend to just say yes, and I start. And then next thing you know, I'm like just doing it. But
Right.
I do want to be smart about how I do it. And so I applied at her suggestion, and I'm really glad I did.
No,
Yeah.
it's fantastic just
That's
to
a
see.
great- yeah,
and
it's a great
just
course.
wonderful, to see you take that plunge of saying, okay, here's all the things I'm going to do behind the scenes that are going to make this work
Yes.
and be successful.
Definitely. And then just through that, there was an email about, applying for a grant already. So
Yep.
I'm, I'm hopeful. I feel a little, right now it's a lot. I am happy to say I just signed my first client for a wedding in July.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I know, I was super pumped. I did a bouquet workshop not a workshop, but just a bouquet station at King Family Vineyard a few weeks ago. And the young bride happened to be there, and she came over, and we just got to talking, and she said, well, I'm getting married here, and I have some florists who I've been talking to, but what about you? And so I told her more about my mission and what I wanted to do, and that I was new, and I proposed to her and provided a quote and everything, and kind of kept my fingers crossed, and I just felt like we made a really good connection. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
That's wonderful to
Yeah.
hear.
Makes you feel
Yeah.
good, right?
Yes,
yeah,
for
it
sure.
really
And
does.
it's funny too. At the workshop, I told the group, I said, I really felt good about this. I made a connection. I'll find out tomorrow. And everyone's like, oh, good luck, good luck. So now I get to share it with my entrepreneur group. But
Oh, so next Tuesday you'll be able.
Every
So they don't know
Tuesday.
yet.
They don't know.
Well, unless they're
they
watching.
might now know.
Unless they're watching.
Yeah. And what a great group. I mean, there are so many people doing really amazing things, and having the mentors behind them, all the volunteers who come in. I think I'm really going to learn a lot, and I just the exposure to my community. I mean, that's only being here 7 years. It says only, but it takes a long time
To put down roots.
Yeah, especially when you're raising kids, and you're just sort
Right,
of you're
exactly.
insular into your own life.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels really good to think out and bigger, and it's all out there. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who have gone through the 16-week workshop that we've had them on the show, and they'll say sometimes even more valuable than the knowledge gained
Yeah.
is the connections that you form.
The
because
networking,
you form like your peer group, because it's people who are
Sure.
going through the same thing you are. Sometimes it's people who have, failed at a business the first time, but they've
Yeah.
learned, and so now that nothing's ever a permanent failure, right? I mean, it's just failure is a
Sure.
way that you can learn more and succeed the next time. So
Yeah.
you'll have people say, yeah, I did that. Here's what I learned.
Yes.
Here's something you should try. So just amazing the network you form
Yes.
to connect with others, and that really just helps you grow.
Well, what scares me, and they say, okay, whatever you think your plan is now, just be open to change, be open to this different possibility. And I think that's good advice. It's hard, though, because I feel so clear. I feel so like this is how I want to go about it. But I'm.
Yeah, I mean, we
But
had
that's- yeah.
we had Kate Purnell from Central Virginia Swim Services. Like, she does swimming lessons.
Mm-hmm.
She was on the show, and she told us when she went into that workshop, I forget what business she was, but it was
Yeah.
not the swimming. And so
Anyway.
as she was going through, she would describe to Shannon, who helps run some of those classes, right?
Yep.
What she was doing with the swimming, and then he said he kind of looked and said, "That sounds a lot like a business." And then it just
wow.
clicked, like, "Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I'm already running
Yes.
a small business. I can do this." So it's
Yes.
amazing how you just learn with what you're doing the ways to make that a business and to fill that
Yeah.
need in the community.
Well, it's people that have seen, especially the CIC, those that help, right, teach. They've seen so many entrepreneurs, and they see where they fall, where they stumble, things that they can help with. So they have all that knowledge, and sometimes it's just like, did you ever think of this?
Yes.
And it's like, no, I haven't. So that's the beauty about that, is that one, you get peers there that are in the same boat you are, and they're talking about their challenges, and you say, wow, those are the same things I'm
Yes.
going through. And
Yeah.
so somebody else says, yeah, but this is what I did.
Right.
And so it's very helpful. It really is. It's an amazing program.
Shannon actually asked me on the very first call we had, did you ever think of, I was telling him what I want to do. Well, what about just selling bouquets? Do you ever think of that? And I say, no. And I said, I mean, my heart is in this whole like bigger thing. And then we got talking more. I said, well, maybe if it was like a group of bouquets and I was able to drop them off. He's like, so now there you go. So he's good at asking those questions.
Yeah, just drawing
spur
out
the thought.
possibilities.
Yeah, so check back with me in 6 months and we'll see where we are. But yeah, I'm super excited about that.
You know, what would you say as you go into this like first full year?
Yes.
What is you're most looking forward to that kind of brings you the most
That
excitement?
first client,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yeah.
Well, that passed already, so it can't be that one.
That was one of those, yay, so excited. I mean, just the process of learning, and I think having that first event, sort of watching it grow and seeing it come together, and the joy that people are feeling over what I create, watching it come full circle. So the purchasing local, the composting piece. I mean, I think I'm excited about the whole process, because for me it won't be just an order, a setup, and then a breakdown. It will be a really, an intentional, meaningful experience, and I just can't really wait to see where that goes, and who kind of comes in and says like, yeah, I want to be a part of your, mission with girls and work with, mental health issues. So this is a great platform, to be able to talk about it.
Yep. And when a way to give back, because I think sometimes I know we tend to compartmentalize and say, well, here's business, and then after I'm successful with business and I retire, then there's giving back.
Yeah.
Right. But in reality, it doesn't have to be compartmentalized. You're kind of combining them both, combining a mission embedded within the very heart of what you're going to do as a small business owner.
Yeah. Probably most excited about getting a space. Right now, it'll be my mom's garage.
Okay.
For putting everything together, and definitely looking forward to finding a space here in town where I can do it.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure.
What a garage is for, right? It's not really for
Didn't
parking.
like Steve
They're not
Jobs
for
start
parking.
in
Yeah,
his
Steve
garage?
Jobs started in the garage, so
Absolutely.
We're going
I mean,
big here.
Exactly. This is just the beginning. This is the one small step and then one big step.
Yeah, I found out about some kind of something you can purchase that when you plug it into your room, it becomes like a cooler. Wow. I don't know. I don't have all the details here, but it will enable me to cool that area off.
Then keep the
wow.
flowers
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of knowledge on Instagram. One particular florist I follow in Southern California, and she does a lot of really sustainable things and is putting it out there. So I have a lot to learn, but it's good that people have blazed the trail already.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and like you said, the notion of sustainable and making sure that like we're using local flowers when we go. I mean, that's the purpose. I mean, to wherever possible, and it's not that we can do it all the time, but wherever possible, you keep the money flowing in our own community so that it's returning to us. It's kind of staying here and lifting up other people, even as you're doing business and people are purchasing from you.
Right. I mean, isn't it cool to think like these growers, that a bride's going to choose these flowers, then all the people are going to enjoy them, then the next day they're going to be at the cancer center,
Exactly.
or at the teacher's desk or wherever. There's so many. Especially today, just people need to be uplifted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to make you feel good, no doubt
Oh,
about
it has to.
Even when the flower's like sort of wilty and I see it go in the trash, I'm like, no, I'll dry you upside down and use you again another day.
Exactly. Because, I mean, sometimes, you even see it. I mean, sometimes it's so enjoyable if you every once in a while come across like an old wood where someone has pressed a flower.
Yeah.
I mean, it bears no resemblance to the flower it was, 20
It's a
years
beauty of
ago.
its own.
But it has a beauty of
Yeah.
its own. It has a kind of aged and reflective beauty.
Yes.
It's not bright and eye-popping anymore, but it's kind of, it's mellowed down, but it brings its own sense of comfort and peace. So things don't have to look perfect or like the way they were when they first came out to be beautiful.
Sure. And there's a space for them in a bouquet. I mean, when you're making a bouquet, there's really 4 flower types. You're looking at your big mass type of flowers, which are the ones that catch the attention. You have filler, then you have flowers that are linear,
Right.
and then you have your accent flowers. So when you're building, you have to really incorporate all of those different elements to make a beautiful bouquet. And to make a bouquet, and I'm working on the spiral method where you just continually turn the flowers into, it's a geometric pattern. So all the stems lie a certain way. And you can make a bouquet quickly, but it looks kind of like it's not a ball.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not one-sided. You're constantly turning it. And if you need to, walk away, you can lay it down and pick it up and continue. And so I'm learning. But it's geometry, and it's kind of
That's
neat
amazing.
the way
Interesting.
all those different things go together to create the thing that looks like, how did they do that?
Yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
you see the finished product and it pops out at you as one beautiful thing, but you don't realize I hate to call it science, but the creative science that goes into that, the patterns that are necessary to give you that single impression.
Yes.
But all the little pieces that have to come together in the way, in the flowers you pick, but also the way you put them together.
And keep them together. That's the
Yes.
hardest part, right?
Yes. And that geometry of spiraling them enables them to kind of stay together.
Yeah.
And also when you're done, you can lift and pull things out the way you need to for the shape that you're going for. But yeah, it's not as simple as it's not just grabbing a couple of flowers and
And put
sticking
it-
them next
no.
to each other.
That's what I do.
That's fine.
It doesn't look as good though.
You know who to call. When you need to
Exactly.
get
Well,
flowers
that's
to
why you call a
somebody.
professional.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't want to do this myself.
Well, and there's
just-
so many lovely flower shops in town, and you can get some gorgeous flowers and arrange them yourself, however you want to. But when it comes to these events and all these
Exactly.
photo ops,
Well, that's the purpose,
Yeah.
right? That's the value you're adding. Does any
Right.
business, right? We always talk about what an entrepreneur adds is value. It's saying, all right, here are these pieces, which, I could get all the pieces myself.
Right.
But when you combine your talent and your effort and your knowledge, you add a value to that
Yes.
I couldn't add
Exactly.
Yes.
to those
Exactly.
pieces.
So it's been a lot of time at Trader Joe's picking stuff and finding those 4 flower types and working them together, which has been a lot of fun to practice. So
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
before we let you know, where can
Yeah.
people find you, learn more, and get in touch?
sure. So right now I'm just on Instagram at Flower Girl CVille. Have a
Flower
website which will also be Flower Girl CVille, but I haven't gotten that up and running yet. So people can follow me there, and we can go from there.
And Instagram remains the perfect
Yes,
place
it
for
is.
flowers.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
I was
I would
actually
think so.
thinking I should change the name to Flowerville.
Flowerville.
Yeah,
oh.
but maybe in the future.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, get it. Even if you don't decide to see if you can get it, so that no one
Yeah.
else gets it
That's
before
right.
you.
And before you, yeah.
No
in
one,
the future.
if you take it, you heard
You're
it
in
here
big trouble.
first.
Yeah, you're in big trouble.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
so much
It's been
for
fun.
coming. It's been an
Yeah.
absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, and we look forward to having you back as you grow and
Absolutely.
finish the workshop.
She'll be so busy,
Awesome.
she won't be able to come back.
Well, you know
Well,
what?
after the workshop.
I think I should make a little something for your love sign here.
Oh, there you
and we
go.
could do like a little cascade of some sort. I don't know.
There you go. We'll ask our
We'll ask the
producers.
owner, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Thanks
Thank
so much,
you.
Jennifer.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Jennifer.
it.
Thank you.
So much fun to
Always, as always.
and again, you just learn so much about I had no idea what went into making a bouquet.
Me neither.
just
I mean,
see
once
the-
she explained that, you wrap this.
But then it starts to make
Yeah,
sense.
it starts to make sense because, like I said, it's not that. It's like I go to the backyard, I cut some flowers, and I put them in a vase, and
And it just-
sometimes
it
I
just
just
doesn't
shove
look
them
as
in.
good.
I just shove them in,
Yeah.
and it's like,
well, but
looks
then
good
you
to
look
me.
at it, you're like,
and then your
how
mother
come
comes
mine doesn't
and
look
arranges
like
them.
theirs. It's like there's a technique that goes into
Yeah,
it.
there's a rhyme and reason. Yeah.
Oh, this was a great show.
This was fantastic.
enjoyed everyone that came on. Just you can tell they love what they do and so
absolutely.
knowledgeable about
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
just it's really amazing to see.
Well, that's what we learned. I mean, listen, in every single profession or every single, little business that you have, there, like you said, in addition to adding value, there's a basic knowledge that you need to have that you just assume, oh, that must be easy, but nothing really is easy, right? It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes experience sometimes to get that product to where you want it to be.
Absolutely. So, well, it's been fun. Thanks so much
Same here.
for
Thank
being
you
on
for having
with
me back. I
Thanks for
appreciate
coming
the
back.
invitation.
Always love it when you're back. Next week also got some fantastic guests that are going to be joining us. 2 artists actually. So we're going to have
Okay.
Brianna Field is going to be joining us, as well as Davi Leventhal is going to be coming on. So 2 fantastic local artists that are going to be
Looking forward
joining
to
us
it.
next Thursday. Although shout out Elizabeth Urpí, happy belated birthday. It was her birthday yesterday.
Yesterday, that's right.
So a very happy birthday to the one and only Elizabeth Urpí. Thanks for commenting today and for always liking
Maybe
the
she's
show.
still celebrating today.
Yeah, she could still be celebrating. We're celebrating. So we just Thanks for commenting and for liking the show and watching the show this morning. Always appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who commented, liked the show, shared the show this morning. Always appreciate it. Be sure to send us any, entrepreneurs or people you think we should feature on the show. There's never a cost to feature someone on the show, so we always.
Well, the cost is to have to put up with me, but that's
yeah,
different.
exactly. It's a small price.
It's a small price to pay.
Small price to pay. I said, can you put up with the affable Xavier Urpí for an hour? And so this has been fantastic. As always, appreciate being here on the I Love CVille Network. Appreciate Jerry behind the camera
that's right.
this morning. Really making it work. We didn't pull anything crazy. We didn't say, hey, you want to get Nick on? Let's just add him on the fly. So we kept it simple. Say, do I have to add him in? We're like, hey,
does he want to get on?
Let's get him on.
He looked like he was having too much fun. I walked in.
Nick's here, God.
So we really appreciate that, making us all look good, following in the footsteps of the wonderful Judah Whitcower, making us look good today. So appreciate that. As always, appreciate our partners, Emergent Financial Services, Matthias Yohn Realty, Craddock Serious Insurance, and Castle Hill Cider, along with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. As I mentioned at the beginning, be sure to check out every Sunday this month, the Royal Tea. You do have to sign up for that in advance. So go to CastleHillCider.com. You can find all the details on the Royal Tea up at Castle Hill Cider. We look forward to seeing everyone next week. Are you back with me next week?
I think so. Yeah, I think my calendar says I'm back.
Xavier's going to be back with me next week.
No guarantees, but yes.
No guarantees, but hopefully the case. We'll be looking forward to that. Look forward to seeing all of you next week. Enjoy this beautiful day. Enjoy what should be some nice weather here in Charlottesville, and we will see you next Thursday. But until that time, as we always like to close out of the show, hasta mañana.